Oops. Sorry. Hi, my name is Jen Espinosa-Goswami, and I just accidentally beeped my horn. What a weird thing. Okay, sorry. I've tried to figure out how to make this live less shaky so that you can actually see me and hear me and I don't accidentally beep my horn. I'm Jen Espinosa-Goswami, joining you live from my page over at Be Weightless. Going forward for the next few months or so, I will be doing these live videos every Tuesday. I know today is Friday. Happy Friday. But I will be doing these every Tuesday at 9:30 a.m. Central Time. So if you anticipate that you'll be available or you suddenly have some free time, come join me live, comment, engage, let me know what you'd like to hear more about, because I want to be here of service to you and I want to know what you want to know more about. So today we're going to be talking about something that has been on the forefront of my mind lately because I've been doing a lot of it. And I want to tell you specifically my personal reasons for why I took on some of the physical assessments that I have, and more generally for maybe your situation or anyone else, what a physical assessment can and cannot do for you, and why that's important for you when it comes to your health goals. So, you may have seen on this page in the past couple of weeks, I've done a couple of different assessments. These are physical assessments, and yes, as a weight loss coach and a health coach, I do help you improve your physical situation, no matter what that is today or where you would like to get to. A lot of that has to do with how you're eating and how you're moving. I do incorporate elements of mindset and ways to kind of get your mind in the mental game as well. But most of how I help women is by helping them improve their physical situation. So if that's something that intrigues you or you'd like to know more about, then we can have a conversation. I'm a strategist. I'm an implementation specialist. I myself have lost 100 pounds. So I can talk to you about where you are today in conjunction with where you'd like to be tomorrow, especially with tangible types of results. You will feel good along the way, I promise that, but I help you figure out how to get to a very specific place in terms of your milestones and how you get there. That's what I do for my work. But personally, I also am a big fan of understanding where you are today. So that's the awareness piece that we work on when I work with clients as well. But one of the reasons and one of the ways in which I am motivated is to understand very specific physical sorts of testing for myself so that I know what my baseline is. And if you've ever worked with me, you've heard this term of baseline habits. It's what we always start with, no matter whether you do my group program with me or you work personally with me. We talk a lot about your baseline habits because we have to understand where you are today before we can change where you are tomorrow. And it's all about the habits, right? I don't care what you sometimes do, what you occasionally do, what you would like to do. I care about what you actually are doing on a regular, consistent basis. So that's your baseline. And one of the reasons I personally am geeked out on physical assessments is because I've already tackled weight loss. To me, that's not something that motivates me in the same way it might have motivated me when I was much heavier. And as well, I'm at a different age than I was when I lost 100 pounds. I'm now this will be my 40th year, throwing myself out there. So, it's a lot different of a situation physically for me than it was when I was 20 years old and when I first lost 100 pounds. So I understand that about myself, and I understand that I need different sorts of assessments in order to motivate myself and also to understand physically where I am. A lot has happened in the past 20 years, and I know that I'm not the same person physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually as I was 20 years ago. So in order to keep up with the times and to keep up with what's current for me, I need to have a different type of assessment. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the type of assessments I have gotten for myself. And if you're curious about either one of these or both of them, comment below this video and I will connect you with the right resources to get you these same assessments. But first of all, let me tell you what assessments I had. The first one I had was called a Bod Pod Assessment. Now, this is done at the University of Minnesota, and basically it looks like a pod. If you've ever watched the movie Aliens or Alien, it's like those futuristic, spaceship kinds of pods where you go in there and you're supposed to sleep for the duration of your time travel until you get to wherever you're going to be in space. That's what it looks like, this Bod Pod, except you sit down in it. You're not laying in it. And after about 40 seconds, 60 seconds, something very short and sweet, it will come up with a report for you. Now, I don't actually have my report in front of me. Maybe I'll do that next time. But this report tells you some basic things. It tells you what your body fat measurement is. It tells you what your fat volume is in terms of your overall body. Because they measure your weight, they have your age, they have your height, and they plug those numbers into there, and then you go into the Bod Pod. Now, this is a tool that a lot of athletes use. It's at the rec center at the university, so it's attached to some of the personal training programs that they provide out there. It's a really good measurement because it's not just focusing on your BMI, which we know is an outdated concept. It's not just focusing on your weight, which only gives you so much information, and that information is skewed because it doesn't take into account certain things like how much muscle you carry on your body, your frame, and certain other things. So this Bod Pod is very helpful because it talks about body fat. It talks about your total energy expenditure. If you've never heard of that word, what it means is how many calories your body naturally burns at rest. So it really incorporates factors that you can't get in a traditional plug in these numbers and come up with a formula test because it's specific to your body. Everyone's activity level is different. Everyone's total energy expenditure is different. And there are a lot of factors that go into that. Some of that has to do with how active you are. So that's why I wanted to do the Bod Pod. I'm very much a fat loss versus a weight loss kind of person. About 8 years ago, I discovered the Burn the Fat, Feed the Muscle program, which is led by a bodybuilder. And it was life-changing for me. That's when I started lifting weights, heavy weights, not just, 2-pounders, like heavy weights. That's when I started developing the best muscle definition I've ever had in my life. And it really changed a lot of my focus. That's when I started following a macro-based plan for food and meal planning. And that really changed everything for me. And that's the type of philosophy I take when I work with clients. We're focusing more on your fat loss and less on your weight loss. So we're not counting a lot of things. We're not focusing on the nitty-gritty details. We're looking at the macro level, what it is you're doing. We're understanding where your baseline habits are. And we're incorporating different types of exercise. So it's not just a cardio-based plan for us. We look at different types of exercise that can really maximize your effort and your results in less time. So the Bod Pod for me was the perfect assessment because it told me where I am right now. Now you may be wondering, well, you're a health coach. Why are you concerned about that? Because things change, right? I'm older. I am very active. I have been since almost a year now, maybe more than that. But my activity level, if you keep doing what you've always done, you're never going to reach that next level. So I know that I need to reach that next level. And the way to really kind of motivate me to get there is to get an assessment to see where I currently am. And here's what I found out from that assessment. So I'm moderately lean, and that's great. Like, I feel fantastic about that, especially because I'm carrying some extra weight than I had been. I gained some weight. My father passed away, and he was very ill a couple of years ago, and I haven't really shed those pounds. Despite the fact that I know how, I haven't been motivated. There've been some physical things going on for me. So, but I know after this Bod Pod assessment that I'm moderately lean, which means I have 28% body fat. Now, you may be thinking, well, that's pretty high. For a woman, that's pretty average, but I'm active enough where I'm kind of in a place where I feel comfortable, and that's what matters to me. But now I know, okay, I can drop a couple additional percentages. That's something I can do. So that's one of the assessments I took. It's called the Bod Pod Assessment through the University of Minnesota. It's like $30, and it takes a really short period of time. So if that's something you're curious about, let me know below here, and I will connect you with the right resources for that. Now, one of the other assessments I took was something I've never done before, and it's still somewhat new to me, and I still don't really understand the full implications of it. But I went to a chiropractor over in Eden Prairie. It's through Cadence Chiropractic, and I did a thermography scan. Thermography is basically where they measure the temperature of the skin along your spine. Now, what does this tell a chiropractor? It tells them, the temperature changes based on where the blood is rushing to. If the blood is rushing to a place, there's probably some sort of inflammation or some other things going on that could be stressing the body out, which is why the body is increasing the temperature around those areas to try to assist with the stressors that are involved there. I think that's layman's terms, the best I can describe it. And this particular chiropractor I went to see, she uses this testing as part of her adjusting, so her chiropractic adjustments. She also did some x-rays and scans, both still ones and motion ones, to identify where I'm locked up in my spine. Full disclosure, I've never seen a chiropractor. I have friends who are chiropractors, but I never really understood it. And I had a little bit of inhibition around it too, because, you know, I have doctors in my family, like traditional doctors, and there's that whole "are chiropractors real doctors" thing. I don't really care. Like, I don't need someone to have a huge degree behind them to understand that they know what they're talking about. Yet, there's a little bit of that myth there in the back of my mind. And then also, I had this feeling that once I start to see a chiropractor, I'm going to keep going, because, you know, if you feel good and you're in a good place, I'm like, I don't want to have an ongoing expense of chiropractic. So that's a silly thing that was going on in my head, but that's the reality of it, right? That's why I didn't do this before. So I found out from this scan that I have a couple of areas of challenge in my body. One is my lower back, which is not a surprise to me because I had back surgery about 10 years ago. When you have back surgery for a slipped disc, you're going to have issues in your lower back. For me, I just assumed that was naturally from the fact that I don't have a disc in my lower back. I just assumed that's natural. But there are things I can do to prevent that, right? And chiropractic is all preventative, which is another reason why I took that assessment. I don't want someone to cure me of anything. I want to be the best I can be today. That doesn't mean I'm like horrible or I'm ill or I don't feel well. I feel fine. But you don't always have issues going on underneath the surface when you feel fine. I just want to throw that out there. So this thermography, what does it tell me? It tells me where there's inflammation in my body. It tells me where my spine might need some help. And the chiropractor identified a couple different areas of concern. And I can feel that, right? I can feel that in other ways in my body. It shows up. So our bodies are fascinating because they're an entire system, right? I have been troubleshooting some things going on with my sinuses, my throat, some issues with breathing. I've been troubleshooting that for easily a year and a half through various means, usually alternative health means, like, I went to see an allergist. I've done some dietary things. I've done some supplemental things. I've been troubleshooting it for quite a while now. And chiropractic was kind of that missing piece. I'm like, okay, well, I can do things from an outside standpoint without any sort of assessments involved, or with some non-invasive assessments. But now I need to do something that's a little deeper, because maybe there's something else going on here. And this scan did identify some other things in my spine. Now, most of us don't know what our spine is doing or what it's doing or how it's doing anything, but it's connected to everything else because it's part of our major system in our body, our nervous system. So it makes sense that, you know, if you're feeling something in your nose, in your head, in your hand, in your feet, and that sort of thing, it's going to be impacted through your spine as well. So that totally makes sense to me. It's a holistic approach, and I totally am dialed into that approach. If you're interested in thermography, chiropractic, what have you, or maybe you want to get a little bit better results, and you don't have to be, again, ill to take advantage of this opportunity, there are athletes who can use it to improve their performance as well. Or there are pregnant women who can use it to have easier, better labor, or easier, better pregnancy. You know, there are lots of different applications for this. Hi, Melinda. Thanks for joining. I'm just talking about some of the assessments that I've done and why I chose that. But more importantly, what assessments cannot tell you. What they cannot tell you. Okay, so if you're interested in that thermography scan like I had, I will be happy to connect you with Cadence Chiropractic, which is where I had it taken. Now that you've seen a little bit of the assessments I took and some of the reasoning why I took them, here's what I have to say. Assessments are fantastic. I love them. I love them. And I encourage you to go a little beyond the weight. You know, I encourage you to go beyond the scale, because there are plenty of other ways you can measure your progress. I work with people in terms of the best measurement for them when it comes to their health. Sometimes that's the scale. Sometimes it's a clothing. Sometimes it's pictures. Sometimes it's fat loss. Sometimes it's even more simple than that. You know, there are many different ways you can measure your progress. But here's what a physical assessment doesn't tell you. It doesn't tell you what you want. A physical assessment cannot tell you what you want. All it can tell you is where you are today. Where am I today? That's what a physical assessment tells you. Another thing a physical assessment does not tell you is how to get where you want to be. That's where expertise comes in. So in the case of my Bod Pod, if I wanted to work with that personal trainer, he probably would have some recommendations. That's where his expertise came in. If I was working through chiropractic for the thermography scan, yes, she has expertise. She took a look at it. She's going to assess it, and she's going to help me determine how to get to where I want to get. That's where my expertise as a health coach comes in. We'll take your assessments, and our assessments are not physical. I'm not going to scan anything. I'm not looking at your medical records. That's not how I assist you. I assist you with your baseline habits. So we'll take an inventory of what your day looks like. We'll take an inventory of what you traditionally do. We'll take an inventory of all of those things. But most importantly, I will use my expertise and listening skills to determine, okay, what is it you really want from this session? What is it you really want from this program? What is it that you want to see happen for yourself in terms of your health? And it's okay to dream big. It's okay to be like, ideally, here's what's going to happen. In fact, a coaching relationship is probably the only place where you'll feel comfortable really doing that and stating that out loud. It may be the first time you're ever stating that out loud, and that's okay. It's not okay that you haven't been able to share that, but it's okay that that coaching relationship is a sacred space for that. It's where we really dive into what matters to you. A physical assessment can't get you there. It can only tell you where you are right now, and that's a good place to start, but it's not the good place to end. You know, until you have a before and an after, that physical assessment can't do anything for you. It just tells you where you are right now. It doesn't tell you what you want. So when you start with that assessment, most likely you had some reason why you purchased it or why you felt like it was important for you to know that information. Because you want something and you don't have it. So you took this assessment, but the assessment is just the first step, right? It's not going to tell you, okay, now here's what you do. That's where expertise comes in. That's where a coach or a trainer or someone who can take that information, plug it into your specific and unique situation and say, this is how we get you there. The hardest part anyone has when it comes to any sort of program or improvement, personal development, is understanding how to get from A to B. That is where the expertise comes in. That's what I help you with. And finally, an assessment can't tell you how long it's going to take. And this is the most frustrating thing for me personally, but for a lot of people I work with as well. Like if I'm talking to someone and I say, yes, I have this beautiful 6-month release program. We can help you release everything that doesn't serve you, release that excess weight we've talked about, release your previous dieting failures, because there's a lot of that going on. It can help you release this feeling that exercise is boring and stupid and not for you. We can release a lot of things that don't serve you. And that's my pleasure and my passion in life. But I can't tell you how long that'll take for you. It's different for each individual. And this is the frustration I had. So when I was coming up with the care plan with my chiropractor, she said, yes, here is the first package. But we don't know if it ends there. We won't know. It just depends on you. It depends on your body. It depends on how you respond. It depends on when I'm in a coaching relationship with someone. It depends on how they implement, right? Like some people jump right in. They're like, I got this, and I'm going to do this. I'm going to follow everything to the letter, and I'm even going to take it up another step, another notch. Those are the go-getters. Those are the type of people I love working with, because they're in it. They're in it to win it, and they're like, I got this. Even if they've never done it before, even if they're following a different practice than they're used to, they just have it. But then there are some people who are like, I will meet you halfway, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure. It's never been there for me. Those people might progress a little bit differently. Or there's even the person that's like, this is just, the people who drag their feet, right? We've all heard stories about people who drag their feet, or even you have done it. Maybe you've purchased something in the past and you're like, this is it. This is going to move the needle for me. And then for one reason or another, maybe life happened and you just didn't implement, or you didn't have time to watch the training, so you didn't do anything about it. And then 2 weeks later, you still haven't watched it, and you tried to watch the next one and it didn't make sense to you because you didn't have the background. It's okay. We're all at different places in our life, and that's okay. So to wrap things up, because I know you have a busy morning ahead of you, and thank you so much for joining us live, Melinda, and anyone else who is watching us. If you're watching the replay, make sure to comment below with your thoughts and feelings, or if you're interested in those assessments I talked about. At the end of the day, physical assessments are a great tool. And I can help walk you through different assessments that might apply to your situation. I've done a number of them. I have some personal experience with a number of ones. And I have a great network of people that I can refer you to for your specific situation. So if you want to just kind of talk that through and figure out, okay, well, what assessment should I do? Is there any assessment that's more beneficial for me than another one? I'd love to talk about that with you, because I do feel that some are more appropriate for certain people than others, and I'd love to just have a conversation about what that might look like for you. But once you get an assessment, or if you've already gotten an assessment, what you do from there is totally up to you. And again, it can't tell you what you want. Ultimately, what is it you want out of your health? What do you want your health to do for you? Because most likely it's not doing something for you today that you want it to do for you. What do you want? It's a really hard question to answer, and I understand that, because I can't answer that all the time. I don't know what I want all the time. Sometimes it's different. So, as an assessment can't tell you that. That's the hard part. That's where the coaching comes in. Assessment also can't tell you how to get where you want to get. Like, how do you get from A to B? Well, that's a very complicated answer with many nuances. And I love to discover that with people. I love to strategize, because that's kind of what I do. And then lastly, an assessment can't tell you how long it will take for you. There are too many factors involved, including your motivation level when you get started, your ability to implement, your willingness to go 2 steps ahead, your body's reaction to whatever it is you're dealing with. So if you have multiple things going on in your body, you may not respond as well to any sort of program as someone who doesn't have those many things going on. So no one can tell what your timeline looks like. Neither a physical assessment nor even me when I'm working with you. We have to kind of discover things as we're in the moment. That doesn't mean we can't guesstimate, that we can't predict, that we can't figure out what is the best starting point for you. All that means is nothing is concrete, right? Things can change. And that's okay. That's why we have assessments, right? Because things have already changed for you. Thank you for joining us live today. Remember, I'm doing these weekly every Tuesday morning at 9:30 a.m. Same bat time, same bat channel right here on my page at Be Weightless. If you want to have me address a particular topic of concern for you, please comment below this video, even if it's the replay. I still see your comments no matter when you dial in and watch me. Let me know what you'd want me to talk about next, and I'd love to have a conversation with you either about assessments for your own situation or what it looks like to be in a coaching relationship, because I would love to talk to you about that. I love to coach people. It's kind of what gets me going in the morning and what gets me going every day. So thank you so much for joining us live. Enjoy your Friday. Happy St. Patty's Day, and we'll talk to you next Tuesday. Bye-bye.